The Taming of the Tomcat, or One Night on Mahashivaratri, from my collection of stories called Dolphin Girl and Other Stories, published by Har Anand, Delhi. Someone called me Lady Rambo because I lived in a place only a bohemian creature like a tomcat could love. My house hunting had led me to an apartment where the bedroom was to have been the kitchen, and the bathroom lay hidden behind the kitchen shelf. But my surroundings were so exciting, so brashly painted, and so out of this world that sometimes I still feel nostalgic about the past. It wasn't as though I did not have any alternative apartments to choose from, but these were the predictable kind, and worst of all, in areas too crowded for my tomcat spirit. I needed space around me, trees and earth and sky. How my heart leapt when I came upon this quaint building painted a ghastly blue, maroon and white. There were a couple of thatch and mud huts a breathing distance away, and the roads were unpaved, so that any passing vehicle left you coughing in a dust cloud. You could see the sun rise in an unfettered sky, and a small forest of casuarina trees from the kitchen windows. I populated it right away with dragons and fairies. The first thing I did when I moved in was to find out how to get into this enchanted forest. I saw people sneaking in through a gap in the barbed wire with their dogs. It belonged to the army, they said, which fact dimmed its enchantment a little. But I wasn't going to let that dim my dragons. I took my two best friends along. The others wouldn't dare come anywhere near my apartment, which suited me fine. And we walked into the enchanted forest, I full of anticipation and they full of amusement. Much to my disappointment, no elves peeped out at us from their tree houses or bit our exploring fingers when we stuck them into holes. Neither did any dragon rise with webbed wings and smoking snout, daring us to pick up the steaming hills of cow dung and doggy dew. But I dreamed on at the kitchen window. The house had 3 suites on the ground floor and a blue tin door that clanged so much you didn't need a doorbell. Tiny maroon stairs went up past a lovely blossoming champak tree that grew right through the house, filling it with its heady fragrance. The most bewitching part of living in the house was a delightful terrace garden, for which the landlord cultivated a deep passion. I was to discover later that he even counted the vegetables. For one day, driven by hunger, I had helped myself to some beans hanging from the trellis. In mournful tones and perfect Hindi, he had said to me, "I have no wife, no children, only my precious plants. They are my children. Why didn't you tell me you were hungry? I make lovely mutton curry." After that, I limited myself to picking green chilies, which were too numerous to be missed. Roses and red geraniums grew around the sides of the terrace, and the trellis covered with the bean creeper with its mauve flowers made a pleasant canopy. From this vantage point, I could look out over vast expanses of bare land and sky, sky, sky. It could get pretty hot and stuffy in my windowless living room. I left the kitchen and bedroom windows open, and the dust piled up in little hills on the floor and window sills. In the nights, the wind howled in my ears along with the hundreds of stray dogs that inhabited the area. I cut holes in the window mesh to feed a family of squirrels that lived outside the kitchen. I taped my paintings to the rough blue, white, maroon walls and covered the stained floor with rugs. I wasn't going to spend too much on the decor, oh no. I knew it wasn't forever. But I couldn't resist buying the cutest turtle seat. I called it Aristotle. And someone presented me with a large, multicolored snake to twine around my late father's chair. I did spend a fortune, though, on glass lampshades I painted red for that warm red glow. I shattered a dozen of them, tripping over the wires. Fetching a ghastly blue shelf for my books from the kitchen, the biggest, airiest room in the apartment, I piled my hundreds of clothes in a mountain on the kitchen floor, those that couldn't find place in my cupboards and suitcases, and I was all set to enjoy my 5th year of living alone. What did it matter if the bedroom was so narrow that when I sat on the bed with my back against the wall, I could prop my legs up against the opposite wall? There was a tap in a corner and more excitement, a trap door beneath my bed. I wanted to explore the dark little room it led to, but the rats had got there first. They were too smart for the traps I set for them, eating the tidbits and not leaving even a bit of tail behind. The shady landlord was away most of the time, leaving a succession of con men to fleece me. There was this tall, skinny man who lay outside my door, wheezing and spluttering. I gave him money for medicine, and he got drunk on it. I gave him money for the KEB, who he said would cut the electricity if I didn't. I never saw the wheezer again. The strange old man who took his place wore jasmine in his long grey silky hair and claimed to be a great cook. I called him Jasmine. I'd never seen him happier than the time when he sat cozily on my kitchen floor, chopping up intestines and sneaking my pickles into the curry. He also claimed to be a holy man and took money to buy coconut and lime for his goddess Kali, who he said would bless me for it. Touched by his concern, I made him a cup of tea every morning. When nothing especially lucky happened to me, and I accused him of cheating me, he swore that he was hanging around only because I was alone. This almost brought tears of self-pity to my eyes. I threw a moonlit party for my friends in the terrace garden. It was like a dream, dancing and chatting in the moonlight among the geraniums and the beans and the chilies and the roses. My friends doubled up with laughter when I unveiled the bathroom behind the kitchen shelf. On their way back, the car got stuck in a ditch not far from the house, and they had a difficult time getting it out. They never came back. But I was very happy all the same. Tomcats, after all, don't need company. The first time I began to wonder about the decency of my neighborhood was the night I was returning home from the discotheque with a friend who called himself Urmila Devi. It was the night of Mahashivaratri. As our auto rickshaw proceeded across the field, a couple of cops popped up from the dreaded Congress grass, waving their batons. "Oh shit!" said Urmila Devi and I. And then a third man with a sub-inspector's cap appeared among the bushes. "Halt, I say!" he cried, raising his baton. "Where to, madam? It is very late in night, very dangerous in these parts." "I am going home," I said. "What number?" he said, shining a torch in my face. I got out, and he studied all of me in the torchlight. My black leather jacket that I had hurriedly zipped right up to my throat, my little leather skirt, my black hose and stiletto heels. "I don't remember the number," I said, "but it's right there across this field. You can come along and check." I glared at Urmila Devi, who was huddled like a speechless mouse in a dark corner of the auto. "Come, madam, you can sleep in government shelter," said the sub-inspector. "I am not going to do any such thing, especially so late at night. Should I give you my office address?" "No need to argue, madam. Just keep calm and get in the auto. We are going to police station." "Get in, Anita," said Urmila Devi. "Traitor," I thought. "I am not going to get in," I cried, and began to walk away toward the housing colony and then to run. I could hear them shouting. "Perhaps the sub-inspector thinks I'm a tart," I said to myself, "and Urmila Devi a pimp." Stumbling on my stiletto heels, I headed for a colleague's apartment. Surely she would let me in. But she wasn't in, and I was reduced to crouching behind her compound wall. My legs were shaking. So this was what being on the run felt like. I strained to listen for sounds of pursuit. Dogs barked from all nooks and lanes. I seemed to have incensed the entire dog population of Viveknagar. After 15 minutes, I ventured from hiding, determined to get home by a shortcut I hoped the cops knew nothing about. Lights came on in a few houses as the dogs, small and big, brown and black, curly and straight, barked at my ankles. A man yelled from a window, "Hey you!" "What hey you?" I yelled back. "I'm just trying to get home." More lights came on, and there, heading towards me, was the auto full of cops, and no Urmila Devi in sight. I ducked into the shortcut and bumped into the sub-inspector. "There's no use, I say," he said with a slight smile. "My men all around." Now this really sounded like the movies. I managed to recover my breath and yielded with a giggle. "Why are you running, madam?" "You scared me." "Not to be scared, madam. We are here for your welfare only." "I am going home, and nowhere else," I said. "You can follow if you like." The three of them walked me home. "I come from a respectable family," I told them. "Do you think me a prostitute?" "That boy in the auto pick you up somewhere?" said the sub-inspector. "Pick me up? He's a friend and he prefers men." He didn't even look surprised. "But where is he?" "He went. I said to him your house used to be a bad place full of prostitutes, and that Babu, landlord, has bad name." "But there's a very decent family living downstairs," I said. No wonder he had believed me a tart. I knew then what the trapdoor beneath my bed was about. The tarts must have been hiding in there during police raids. Jasmine hobbled down the stairs to tell the cops about my stories in the newspapers, a fact that would make me most respectable. "Young women like you going in auto 12 o'clock at night in the area," said the sub-inspector, shaking his head at me. "I will put case on you. I say, it is our duty, madam, to see you are not doing rash anything. You go up now, madam." As I said, it was a night of Mahashivaratri, the one night in the year when Lord Shiva closes all his eyes and people think they can get away with anything. I had just fallen asleep along with the dogs in the neighborhood when I heard a voice at the window above my head. I thought I was dreaming, but I heard it again, a man's voice. "Open the door," it said in perfect English. I froze. I hadn't realized how easy it was to climb up to the window. I decided to play it real cool. I assumed that speaking to it decently would make it decent too. Such is innocence. "Are you crazy?" I said. "I'm not that kind of girl. Go away. It's late. Tonight is Mahashivaratri. I've been watching you. Go away, or I'll get mad at you and call the police. I am the police. Put on the light." "What?" I cried, lifting the mosquito net and almost getting entangled in it as I got out of bed. But I switched on the light and peered through the rusty mesh, hoping to see his face, which I could then identify to the cops. All I could see was a dark blur. I hastily switched off the light and, having noticed a little hill of dust on the windowsill, chucked some through the mesh at the blur. "Whaff!" it said, and between coughs barked, "Open the door! I'm coming down!" I hurried to the door, all set to yell for Jasmine, my senses alert for the knocking which I prayed would never come. But it did. "Go away!" I screamed. Silence. I trembled at the door for half an hour before I felt brave enough to open it. No Jasmine. Suddenly, living alone in this out-of-the-way place didn't seem worth it. I yelled for Jasmine, who came hobbling and shuffling up the stairs, looking more frightened than me. "Missy," he said in a shaking voice, "I was sleeping when I heard a sound and looked up to see the shadows of two men coming down the stairs from the terrace. So I ran down to get help." "Two men?" I said, feeling faint. "But how did they get in?" "The terrace door was open," said Jasmine, squirming guiltily. The help trooped up with anxious faces. A Bhelpuri man who lived in the lane outside, a dhobi, and a grimy mechanic. After that, I had nightmares of the climbing Romeo hiding under the trapdoor beneath my bed, and Jasmine made things worse by telling me about a tenant who had hanged himself from the champak tree that grew through the house. The building, he said, was haunted by his ghost. Before I could go house hunting again, my true love came along. He was very impressed by my living alone and all that. Being a sensitive soul, he said nothing about the heat and the dust, but he was so alarmed by my climbing Romeo story and the slummy area I lived in, he invited me to live with him. Yet at times, the tomcat in me yearns for those wild, solitary days of living on the edge.